Hello and welcome back to Incremental Factory. We left off last episode with the prestige for the first time. Spent our prestige points and they proved pretty valuable setting up the factory again. This is my setup after the first prestige. I'll go over it with you, kind of go over my strategy and what we're going to do in the future. I think early in this episode we're going to prestige one more time. But basically I have these two parcels set up here. I unlocked the second challenge node so I could have two challenges going at once. And basically all it is a production challenge plant right here. And whatever the necessary one is. So I believe this one is coal, so I just have 40 coal miners in this parcel mining coal, and they're all supplying the production challenge plant. So you can see I've got down here progress. This one just hit the one landmark, so I'm on to the next one to earn 6 more. But I'll probably prestige at this point because it's going to take forever to build that. We're going to need some extra bonuses to be able to achieve this in a reasonable amount of time. So I'll have 18 points this one, 18 points on this one, so it'll be 36 plus 2 left over from last one, so I'll have 38 skill points to spend. So we'll take a look at that in a minute. These are 3 parcels down here are just coal power. That's all they are, is coal miners and coal power plants. I just keep adding them on as I need the power. So the bigger the parcel, the better, basically, because the more you can fit in. Right, this now is 45 of 102 building slots. So that's part of the prestige. They added extra building slots to the parcels, which have proved very helpful. And down here, this is basically just my building supplies, supplying stuff to the headquarters, so I have stuff to build with. This has become slightly an issue when I go on a building spree. I find myself waiting quite a bit of time for materials to build back up, so I have stuff to build. So we'll have to address that after the next prestige, possibly by putting a node parcel down, which can only have one building in it, which would probably be the construction hub. And then we can basically set up a second one of these so that they're pumping in materials twice as fast. So I'll have headquarters will be storing construction materials as well as the other node. So we'll have 2 factories creating materials so that it won't take so long to build items. That's going to be my strategy on that one. We'll see how that works out. And then up here, this was basically my setup before, to shoot 2 Gen 1 chip factories supplying the green science, copper cable factories supplying the red science, and then these being pumped into a research. I started messing around with blue science just because I was waiting for the challenges to be completed. So basically this one is just mining oil, 20 oil wells, turning them into oil and turning them into plastic. And then plastic was going to Gen 2 chips. Gen 2 chips are getting a little bit more involved. They have silicon and plastic, so plastic was being made at our parcel we just talked about. Silicon dioxide is made in the oxidation furnace, which requires oxygen, but you need a ton of these things. They only produce 0.1 oxygen per building, so I needed 60 of these buildings just to produce the 6 oxygen required for the oxidation furnace. So you can see it takes quite a big chunk out of your building slot limits. But looking forward, so then I actually added a second research facility just because I had already built it by accident, so I figured I might as well use it. Because I could have just put the blue research into this one, but so blue science is being made here and it just gets into this research facility. Looking forward, Gen 3 chips are quite involved, so I'm not going to start those until after the next prestige. Got lots of stuff I don't even know how to pronounce, but low-K dielectric, silicone, germanium, and these are all somewhat involved recipes. They require coal ash, which is going to be, I believe, from the power plants, I believe, do that. Yeah, they output coal ash, so that'll be make use for all that coal ash we're generating out of the power plants. But then like purple science requires Gen 3 chips times 2, Gen 1 chips times 4. So we're going to have quite a huge Gen 1 chip setup that we'll have to work through. So that's going to be after the next prestige. Some issues I've been running into are throughput, so we're limited to 8 per second. So this, for instance, in the copper cables, if you click on this rate reel, it'll tell you what your maximum production is possible. It's 10 per second, but I'm transferring that to the next parcel, and it can only transfer at 8 per second. So we're going to have to look at using some of our prestige points to increase that limit so that we can take advantage of the full copper production that I'm doing. And so taking a look at the skills real quick. This is the, let's see right here, this edge throughput. This one will take throughput to 16. It's only going to cost 3 prestige points, so it's relatively cheap. So we'll probably take care of that one right away. I think I actually might do this. The storage capacity is becoming an issue too. When you build stuff, it uses quite a bit of material. So it helps to have more material buffered up by what we talked about, building that node parcel, which I think will help with that a lot. And then, because it's going to be really expensive to upgrade this one, 26 prestige points. I'm only going to have about 38, I think, to spend. So the other thing with these production challenge plants up here, I think the strategy would be to set these up as early as possible so they have time to build up, because they do take some time to mine all the material required to meet the goals to get the prestige points. So the earlier you set these up, the better. The more time they'll have to build up, and it looks like prestiging is going to slow down quite a bit because it's going to become a lot more involved building these factories, and I'm not quite sure I want to reset them up. I did set up some blueprints. The blueprints right here, I've only set up one blueprint, the Gen 1 chip times 2. You can see here what it costs. It has 40 buildings in the blueprint, and I need to have these materials on hand in order to buy the blueprint, and it just inserts it into the parcel. So very nice if you already have like this Gen 1 chip. I'll hit edit, and it basically has 4 coal miners, 12 stone miners. Basically it's set up enough for everything to build to fulfill the need of 2 Gen 1 chip plants. Now I only have one Gen 1 chip plant in here because I don't have enough steel storage to build two of these in the blueprint. So I just have to remember to add the second one once I build the blueprint. But basically this is all set up to ratio so that it will build everything required to maintain 2 Gen 1 chip plants operating. So super handy, because that way you can set it up once and then basically forget about it and not have to refigure out how many of each building you need. And it's super handy. You can just add this to a new parcel. You know, you could add 2 of them. If you wanted 4 Gen chip plants, you could just add 2 of these blueprints to the parcel, and it would, as long as you have room for building slots, which is why it tells you right here you need 40 buildings. I couldn't add another one here because I only have 30 buildings available, 36 buildings available, so I wouldn't have room to put it in this parcel. Looking at the skills here, the brick specialization, if one parcel contains only one type of building that produces bricks, increase production rate by 3% per building in that parcel. So I take that to mean, basically, if we take a look at one of my parcels here, this is the bricks parcel. So all it has on there is stone miners, coal miners, and kilns to make bricks. If you click on this rate max, it says 5 per second. So that's what it'd be without the bonuses. I don't know if the bonuses aren't shown here, or if we just have to assume it works. I guess we could do a little test and see if we can see it going up by 7, because this would be 16 buildings times 3%, would be almost a 50% increase, 48% increase in brick production. So that should be like 7.5 instead of 5. But the real question is that really working? I can't really see, so I can't really tell. But I built this extra parcel here where I'm just going to build a whole bunch of stuff that requires bricks. So I just spent a whole bunch of bricks here. I have only 500 left. So let's go back to that brick parcel and see if we can tell if it's still says 5 per second. Until the inventory window's down, it's hard to tell. Rate real negative 3 per second. I'm not quite sure why that is. Maybe because you not have enough stone miners to keep up with the extra production. That didn't seem to do anything. Especially because we already have stone maxed out, so that can't be it. Maybe coal. Coal's maxed out as well, so I'm not really sure why this is showing -3 per second. Probably because I'm transferring 8 per second out, and this is only making 5 per second, so that would be -3 per second. But either way, I'm not seeing the bonus being added on. So once the inventory empties out, maybe we'll be able to see it, but I'll wait a second and see. Looks like storage capacity is 3,437. So I still have over almost 1,000 bricks to go before it's full. It is importing 8 per second. That's because it's burning through the inventory. I guess once this burnstone inventory, if this changed to 7.5, that would mean our bonus is working. But I think we're going to hit the max before we run out of bricks. Nope, see, so that dropped down to 5 per second, which is exactly what we're producing at. And it is going up by 5, not by 7.5. So I'm not sure if that bonus is really working or not, or if I'm reading it wrong. But it's definitely going up only by 5 at a time. And it should be going up by 7.5 if I'm reading the bonus correctly. One type of building that produces bricks, which is all we have. One type of building that produces bricks. You know, unless I can't have anything else in that parcel, I have to import coal and stone to it. Maybe that's it. I'm not quite sure. Maybe I could do a test on that and see. Either way, I'm not sure. Alright, so I've set up a second test. This parcel is just mining coal and stone. It is going to send it to this parcel, which the only thing in this parcel is brick buildings, kilns, 5 of them. So if I'm reading this correctly, I would have 5 buildings times 3% per building would be a 15% increase. So instead of 5 per second, it should be 5.75 per second. So we're going to run this test again and see if I can get this number to be, if it shows up as 5.75 per second, or if it stays at the 5 per second, to see if this bonus is worth it. So let's build a whole bunch of stuff real quick again. Let's build a whole bunch more of these, I guess. So I used up a whole bunch of bricks. Back, drag this over to here, this over to here. I can't do that because it's limited to 2. So let's see what this comes out to. 5.5 per second instead of 5. So there is a little bit of a bonus. Not quite what I was expecting. Possibly a rounding error. But it is showing at 5.5 per second, so not a huge difference. I guess if I added more of these, it would make them faster and give you a bigger bonus. So this should be producing 10 per second. But we're not shipping in stone fast enough. Yeah, we're not going to be able to ship in stone fast enough because of the throughput limit. It shows, yeah, 8 per second, so the most we could do is 8 of them. And even this is only 4 per second, so because of the stone, so if we drop this down, eight per second. Actually, it's not even enough, so that's probably why it was limited to 5.5, because the stone wasn't coming in fast enough. So let's turn the kilns off for a minute. Let's let this build up, and then we'll turn them back on and see if it produces at 5.75 per second. Alright, so I built up some stone and coal. I'm going to try putting 10 kilns in. At a 3% per building bonus, that would be a 30% bonus. So 10 times 3 would be 3, so 13 per second. So we would expect to see a 13 per second production rate of bricks. Now this would be assuming that we can supply 20 per second stone. So we'd be super limited by edge throughput on this, but it's just a case that I have extra coal and stone built up in here so that we can test it. So there's 10 kilns. It is going way above the 10 per second. We're at 12 per second, so not quite the 13 per second that I would expect to see. That would only be a 20% bonus. So again, there's definitely some miscalculations or something. I'm either reading it wrong or the game's not rounding it correctly, but this should be 13 per second, not 12 per second. But there is a bonus, but I'm not sure it's worth sinking more skill points into, because one, you have to designate a whole parcel. So I have 102 buildings on this parcel available, and there's only 10 kilns on it. So it's kind of a waste of a parcel. So I'm not quite sure it's worth it for my strategy and playthrough, but I don't know. Now we know how it works at least.